Hi again YouTube, it's that one guy in lit class, and today I'm going to start a series of videos on how to diagram a sentence. This video will focus on the basics, nouns and pronouns, verbs, adjectives, and adverbs. Part 2 will introduce direct and indirect objects and prepositional phrases. Part 3 will talk about the three verbals, gerunds, participles, and infinitives, and Part 4 will talk about the things that don't really fit in anywhere else, appositives, interjections, compound subjects and verbs, and whatever else I think of between now and then. Let's get started with the most basic of sentences. Bob ran. This sentence has two words, a noun, Bob, and a verb, ran. These two words function as the sentence's subject and predicate, respectively. To diagram this, the first thing we're going to do is draw a big plus sign with a horizontal line larger than the vertical one. Once you have that drawn, it's important that the first thing you do when looking at your sentence is identify the divide between subject and predicate. We represent this divide with a vertical line. The subject goes on the left of the line and the verb goes on the right. We draw a horizontal line under the main part of the sentence so that it's easy to tell which words are key to making the sentence a complete sentence. Important words like subjects, verbs, and objects go on this horizontal line. Words that modify or clarify those words are attached with diagonal lines to the word they are modifying or clarifying. In this sentence, the noun, Bob, goes on the left of the vertical line, and the verb, ran, goes on the right, like in the example on the screen. Okay, so that's not too hard, right? We can diagram any simple sentence in the same way. Sally sews, Jorge jogs, Esther eats, and so on. We can also replace the noun with a pronoun. Because the pronoun is acting as the noun and is still the subject of the sentence, it goes in the same place a noun would, like this. He hurrahs, she says, they teach, etc. As long as the pronoun in question is acting as the subject of the sentence, it goes in the subject place. We'll talk about nouns and pronouns as objects in the next video. So we could spend all day mapping out two-word sentences, but honestly it's pretty boring, so let's start adding other words into the mix. Adjectives and adverbs are both diagrammed the same way, with a diagonal line that touches the word they modify. So in the sentence, the big blue ball bounces beautifully, we start by drawing that same elongated plus sign as before. Our first step is to identify the noun and the verb. In this case, the noun is ball and the verb is bounces. After that, we have these modifying words. The, big, and blue all modify the noun ball, which makes those words adjectives, and beautifully modify as bounces, which makes it an adverb. Remember that the words a, an, and the are three members of a subgroup of adjectives called articles. They still count as adjectives though when we're diagramming. To diagram the adjectives, we will draw three lines that touch the noun they modify. Each individual adjective gets its own line, and they are written diagonally along the line. Similarly, the adverb is written along a diagonal line that touches the verb it modifies, which is bounces. One more quick thing before I give you a few practiced examples. Sometimes an adverb will not be modifying a verb, but instead modifies an adjective or an adverb. This happens a lot with the word very, but also occasionally with other adverbs like so or rather. Check this example out. The baby cried very loudly. We can diagram this like we have been with the subject baby, the verb cried, and we know that the is an adjective modifying baby. But when we get to very, we learn that it's not modifying cried. You can't cry very. But you can cry loudly, and that's what's going on here. Very modifies loudly, which in turn modifies cries. You can see how that looks on the screen. Similarly, adverbs can modify adjectives that are in turn modifying a noun, like in the example here. In this case, rather modifies talkative, which modifies man. I'm going to put a few sentences up for you to practice diagramming. Feel free to pause the video at this point and work them out, then skip ahead to check your answers. As always, leave questions and comments down below. Cheers!